For the first time since the conclusion of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Tampa Bay Lightning are playing hockey again today. They open up the preseason against the Carolina Hurricanes, and Locked On Lightning has some player profiles on two guys that will be crucial to the upcoming Tampa Bay Lightning season. Welcome to Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Josh Sperber, your host every day, as we get into this preseason primer episode of Locked On Lightning. Before we get into the preseason, I want to talk about one of the players that is going to be crucial not only to the preseason game against the Carolina Hurricanes that starts at 7 o'clock today, but I want to get into a player that I think is a pretty easy consensus as the most crucial offensive player for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But that's not what we're here to debate here on Locked On Lightning. What I am going to ask is, will Nikita Kucherov win his second Hart Memorial Trophy? He played all 82 games of the 2018 and 2019 season, took home the Art Ross Trophy and Hart Memorial Trophy with 41 goals, 87 assists for what was then a career-high 128 points. It was the first time that Kucherov led the NHL in points. Of course, the second time being this most recent season, 100 assists, 144 points, and second on the team with 44 goals for the two-time Stanley Cup winning Nikita Kucherov. Now, this year, he is going to continue to feature as an offensive force for the Tampa Bay Lightning, particularly, once again, with the departure of Steven Stamkos. There's going to be more offensive responsibilities on the shoulders of Nikita Kucherov, and he's going to have to step up. As good a player as he is, as well as he did last season, Nikita Kucherov is going to have to step up. That is something that really needs to happen with just about everybody when a key player like Steven Stamkos leaves. Plain and simple. You're going to need more production from more guys already existing on the team. And Nikita Kucherov was the most productive offensive player in the NHL last year. Plain and simple. 44 goals and 100 assists. Got some votes for the Hart Memorial Trophy and his second Art Ross Trophy, dethroning Connor McDavid for the first time since 2020, the year after Nikita Kucherov won it the first time. Now, he might lead the NHL in points once again, but I think he has his eyes on another trophy, and that is the Hart Memorial Trophy, the NHL's MVP that Kucherov also won in 2019. Connor McDavid has won 2 out of the last 4. Of course, Nathan MacKinnon of the Avalanche won the Hart Trophy in 2024. Now, I'm not going to guarantee Kucherov for any awards, but I do think he has a case. He's going to have a case at the Hart Trophy. He had a great postseason. 7 assists in 5 games against the Florida Panthers, and he has been one of the most, if not the most, consistent offensive player since his introduction to the NHL over 10 years ago. It's going to be in his 11th NHL season this year for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He broke into the league in 2013, 9 goals and 9 assists in 52 games. Since then, he has not recorded lower than 65 points on an NHL season, his lowest coming at 65 in his first full year in 2014 and 2015. Now, 10 years later, Nikita Kucherov has a much bigger role on the Tampa Bay Lightning's offense, has the assistant captain A on his jersey, and the former second-round pick has really now turned into the focal point of the Tampa Bay Lightning offense. Of course, his assists really popped out last year, but can he put it all together for another MVP season? In his last MVP season, 128 points, 87 assists, 41 goals. He topped both of those numbers this year, setting career highs with 44 goals, tied for second on the Lightning, and 100 assists, leading the entire NHL in this last season. If any Lightning player is going to win a big award, it's going to be Nikita Kucherov, I think. The Hart Trophy is certainly something that is in view for Nikita Kucherov because I think he needs to have a huge season for the Tampa Bay Lightning to have success. The big theme of the podcast since I joined last week has kind of been moving on from Stamkos. We've talked about some of the new faces coming in there. They're going to get some good minutes, but roles on the team are still kind of in jeopardy. I mean, Nikita Kucherov is one of the few returners, two returners on the first line, him and Braden Point, the leader in goals and assists for the Tampa Bay Lightning, both coming back this year. And I talked about how Braden Point, I think, needs a breakout season, but that's more for Nikita Kucherov's benefit. He needs another complimentary player like a Steven Stamkos to step up and take some of that mantle, take some of that pressure off of him in the offensive zone so Kucherov can get a better view of the ice and make some plays for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's the point guard. He's the quarterback. He is the guy who the Lightning want to put the puck on the stick of as many times as possible in this upcoming season. So Nikita Kucherov, it is very clear that he is going to play a key role in the Tampa Bay Lightning attack, but will he be the Hart Trophy winner? Will he be voted the most valuable player in the NHL? And obviously, that is maybe the most wide open award in the NHL season because you really never know what you're going to get year after year. You obviously have some of the favorites, Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid, the last two winners. Those are guys that you're going to have to look at. Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes is someone who could certainly make a play for it. We'll talk about him in the next segment because it's going to be Carolina who the Lightning will play to start off their preseason. But I think Nikita Kucherov, if the Lightning want to make a deep run in the postseason, maybe even get back to the postseason, because with some of the key losses for the Lightning and with really the influx of a lot of players who don't have that much NHL experience, for the first time in the last, longer than I can even remember, maybe even in the last decade or so, the Tampa Bay Lightning certainly aren't guaranteed an NHL playoff spot. And I know that sounds kind of favoring because, obviously as a Lightning fan, I want to think the Lightning are going to be in the playoffs year in, year out. But this year, that's certainly going to be in contention. You've got a lot of new players. JJ Moser, a guy who is new with the Lightning, expected to be on the first line. Jake Guentzel is taking the place of Steve Stamkos. And if you look at his stats, he's been solid in his NHL career. But comparing his numbers to Steven Stamkos, they're just two different players. Stamkos is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's a hard guy to replace. I don't know if Guentzel, in his first season with the Lightning, is going to be the guy that completely takes up the mantle. Again, we're going to talk about him later in the episode because he's starting off his preseason against his new team. Nikita Kucherov is still going to be the key player on the Lightning. I think he is definitely going to lead the Tampa Bay Lightning in assists this season. On the last episode, we talked about the Lightning power play, how that is going to be shaping up. And, it could be Nikita Kucherov that takes the mantle of Stamkos and gets some of those extra power play goals that Stammer was so good at getting for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But he also has, again, that field general role, that point guard role. Jeff Halpern, the assistant coach who runs the power play for the Lightning, was talking about Nikita Kucherov's ability to shoot it on the power play, but also his vision on the ice and his ability to pick out his teammates. So whether he's passing the puck or shooting it himself, he is going to get big numbers for the Tampa Bay Lightning this season. And I think there is certainly a chance that he can finish this 2024-2025 season with his second Hart Trophy. I think we'll have another all-star season for Nikita Kucherov. And if I'm going to pick the Hart Trophy winner, I might be picking Nikita Kucherov right now, because if the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to play at the level that they have played at in the last couple of seasons, if they're going to get back to the postseason, if they're going to maybe even challenge for the division lead in one of the tougher divisions in the entire NHL, Nikita Kucherov has to step up. And I'm not saying that he had a bad season. He needs to improve on some of his numbers. He has to be the guy for the Tampa Bay Lightning this season. So I think the Lightning's success is in some way tied to Nikita Kucherov, and he is going to be one of the finalists for that Hart Trophy this season. He might even win the Art Ross Trophy for a second straight season and the third time. But Nikita Kucherov is a guy who needs to have a huge season for the Tampa Bay Lightning if they are going to have success in 2024 and 2025. We're going to take a quick break here from Locked On Lightning. Coming up next, we're going to get right into this new season, not just the individual players, but we'll preview the preseason opener against the Carolina Hurricanes right after a word from our sponsors. Want to play Prize Picks alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promo tabs of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community every week. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineup stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your picks are still live. You can download Prize Picks today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get off $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need a win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Josh Sperber back here with Locked On Lightning, and we're going to get into the preseason preview. I'm realizing now red might have been the wrong color to wear today, but the Carolina Hurricanes and Tampa Bay Lightning are getting together their first and only preseason matchup of the first of two preseason matchups of the 2024 season. The Lightning will travel to Carolina on Friday, October 4th, but today, Tuesday, September 24th, the Lightning host the Carolina Hurricanes in their preseason opener. It is a matchup that has been featured a couple times in the last two preseasons. Last year in the preseason, the Lightning split the two games with the Carolina Hurricanes, in Carolina falling 5-2, in Tampa Bay winning 4-0. And Tampa Bay took two of the three matchups against the Carolina Hurricanes, all of which came in the first half of the season in 2023 last year. Two of the three games were shutouts, a 4-0 win for the Hurricanes in Tampa, but Tampa also won 3-0 in the first game between the two sides last year at Amalie Arena. And in Carolina, the Lightning took it to the Hurricanes with an 8-2 victory. So the Lightning, I think, need a good start on the preseason. Obviously, you want to get a win, but these preseason games aren't as much about wins and losses. They are just as much about developing some of the players, tinkering with some of the lines, and really just kind of getting the guys comfortable with each other. And I think for the Tampa Bay Lightning, that has to be the key component of this preseason. You're going to get some tests of some of the young guys. You might see Connor Geekie in the postseason. He is certainly in the preseason. He's certainly a guy that I'd like to see get on some NHL lines and get some preseason action. So that's going to be important. Also, something we'll talk about in the next segment, Jake Guentzel going up against his former team. He played 17 games for the Hurricanes last year, and that could certainly be a benefit to the Tampa Bay Lightning as they start their preseason campaign. But I think what's most important about this preseason opener is the Lightning putting up a good fight, because there are certainly some players on the Lightning, or some fans, I should say, of the Lightning that are a lot less optimistic about the post-Steven Stamkos era of the squad. So the last thing the Lightning are going to want to do in the regular season when that opens in a couple weeks, and in the preseason when that game one starts tonight, is just go up there and get embarrassed by a really solid Carolina Hurricanes team. And the Hurricanes, 111 points, second to just the New York Rangers in the entire Eastern Conference, finishing second to the New York Rangers in the Metropolitan Division. And in the entire league, only the Rangers and Dallas Stars had more points than the Carolina Hurricanes last season. Sebastian Aho was their big player with 22 more points than anyone else on the team, despite missing 3 games, 36 goals, 53 assists. He is going to be a big guy to watch. Seth Jarvis, Teuvo Teravainen, really solid players on this Carolina Hurricanes team. And again, the records aren't big in the preseason. The Lightning might not even be favored in this matchup. Carolina took 2 games off the New York Rangers, losing 4-2 in the second round of the playoffs last year. Lightning took just 1 game against the Florida Panthers in the Cup playoffs. So the Hurricanes were one of the better teams in the NHL in the regular season last year, and had a solid playoff showing as well. But we'll see how they stack up against these Tampa Bay Lightning. You're going to get a good idea of some of the lines, and I'm curious to see J.J. Moser playing on his offside. Coach John Cooper has talked about Moser playing on a different side because his regular side is the same side that is occupied by Victor Hedman. The new Lightning captain, he's not going to give everything up. But Moser is still expected to be the first-line defender with Victor Hedman for the Tampa Bay Lightning this upcoming season and preseason. So this is going to be the first time that they're going to get real game action side by side. Jake Guentzel's going to get his first taste of Lightning hockey going up against his former team. That's something that we'll go to in the next segment. But what are going to be the keys for the Tampa Bay Lightning in this preseason matchup? For me, defense is going to be what I am going to be watching very closely. That is something that all the coaches have really said that they've been focusing on in the preseason practices, in training camp, trying to build a stronger defensive identity for this Tampa Bay Lightning as they kind of forge their new path on forward in this new era of Tampa Bay Lightning hockey. And that's going to start with defense. Ryan McDonagh, Eric Cernak in line 2 is another line combination that I really want to watch for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Of course, that was the line for those 2 players in the Stanley Cup run most recently, McDonagh and Cernak. So getting them back together, seeing how much of their chemistry they really need to recreate, if even any, and just kind of see what they can bring to the table in this upcoming season. It's going to be fun. Then, of course, the offense, that first line with Jake Guentzel is something that I'm going to want to watch as well. But I'm always a big fan of the goalies. Andrei Vasilevsky missed most of preseason last year, had some injuries to start the season, and he has been talking about how much healthier he is coming into this season. He's going to get the starting goal, but of course there's going to be some rotation there in the preseason. I'd like to see a Lightning victory to start off the year. And honestly, I'd like to see the Lightning really treat this like a regular season game because, they've got some good players. I think, though, the Lightning, in a lot of ways, have been written off because of the departure of Steven Stamkos. And I think even in the preseason, a victory, a really solid showing, some kind of good game from the Tampa Bay Lightning could be a start to proving wrong some of the doubters as they get ready for the regular season in the NHL. I'm predicting a 3-2 game. I want to say the Lightning are going to win. I think, though, Jake Guentzel is going to be a pretty solid factor against the Carolina Hurricanes, his former team, in his Lightning debut in the preseason. So we are going to take a break now before we get into the final segment. More on the preseason preview. How is Jake Guentzel going to do against his former team? And how will this set the tone for his first full season as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning? We'll be back with some thoughts on Jake Guentzel's Lightning debut. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's number one sports book. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So a $5 bet, you get $200 on FanDuel. That sounds like a great deal, and that is FanDuel.com. Our third and final segment of the episode of Locked On Lightning indeed is one of our sponsors, best place to find jobs. Josh Sperber here, and talking about one of the newest members of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Jake Guentzel, a name that I'm sure you guys have heard quite a bit in this show, and really anything that's talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning offseason, because as I've mentioned, Jake Guentzel is going to be tasked with a big task. He is likely going to take Steven Stamkos' place on the left wing on the Lightning's first line, expected to be one of the crucial players in Tampa Bay's offensive attack in this upcoming season. And I think that this first game is big. A lot of people write off preseason because the games don't really count. It's really just training in a lot of ways. But a key component of preseason, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of testing out some of the new guys and seeing how they all gel together on the same ice. And with a team with a lot of new faces like the Tampa Bay Lightning, that is going to be very, very important to watch. And this is where it gets put to the test for the first time in this season, for the first time with this new roster, for the first time in the Victor Hedman captain era, for the first time in the post-Steven Stamkos era. I mean, take your pick. Make no mistake, this first preseason game is big for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm very excited to see how their offense runs with Nikita Kucherov essentially as the captain of this Tampa Bay offense. Obviously, Victor Hedman's the captain. I know that. But the offense is going to be run through Nikita Kucherov this season. We talked about that in the first segment. But now we'll have to talk about some of the rest of the offense, which is going to be Jake Guentzel. 17 games against the Carolina Hurricanes, or 17 games against the Carolina Hurricanes, 17 or with the Carolina Hurricanes after he was a deadline deal from the Pittsburgh Panthers to Carolina. Averaged 17 minutes of ice time, 8 goals, 17 assists, with what is a career best plus minus of plus 16, finishing all of 2024 with a career best of plus 25 on 2 teams, was Jake Guentzel. In the postseason, 4 goals, 5 assists in last year's playoffs for the Hurricanes as well. So add that to the 8 goals, 17 assists. You get 12 goals, 22 assists in a grand total of 22 games 28 games for the Carolina Hurricanes in both the regular season and the playoffs. Now, Jake Guentzel won the Stanley Cup in 2016 and 2017 with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was a key player with Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby in his first NHL season. Now, Guentzel's a longtime NHL veteran. He was a big part of the Penguins' attack. They offloaded him to make kind of a rebuilding deadline deal, and he went to the Carolina Hurricanes. And players against their former teams is something that, we see a lot in all sorts of sports. Mixed results. There were some guys that really kind of know how their old team works and can use that to their advantage when playing for a different team in a new season. And Jake Guentzel has been gelling well with the Lightning squad. The coaches have been saying nothing but complimentary things about one of the newest members of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And this is the first time to see it against practice. I mean, you'll hear from any coach that going up against your own team versus going up against, competition is a different animal. And we're going to see a bunch of new faces on the Lightning line. Jake Guentzel might be the one under the most pressure, and I think that's absolutely the case. He was a pretty marquee trade for the Lightning, despite the fact that they only gave up a third-round pick for him. But he came in with a big load on his shoulders, expecting to take up most of the offensive load from Steven Stamkos. And he does have 2 40-goal seasons under his belt, tying his career high set in 2018 and 19, 21 and 22 with 40 goals in 76 games. Now, I'm not saying that you should expect a 40-goal season from Jake Guentzel. I think that is going to be the goal because, Steven Stamkos, another 40-goal season for the Lightning, that was pretty normal. I mean, seemed like he did that just about every year with Tampa. And replacing him, you want to get some of that same production. He had over 40 goals, over 40 assists last year for Tampa. Jake Guentzel needs some of that. And I think Nikita Kucherov can take away some of the pressure on the offense by, keeping the puck in his stick a lot and getting Guentzel some room to set up and find himself some open space on the ice to cut inside and get himself some goals. But I think Guentzel needs a big game against the Carolina Hurricanes. You want to have a statement game when you're starting for your new team, especially when you're a former All-Star like Guentzel is, just 2 years removed from his lone NHL All-Stars team. And Guentzel is going to come in with bigger expectations, $9 million a year contract, 7 years, $63 million a day after he was traded to the Lightning from the Carolina Hurricanes, and not only replacing Steve Stamkos, but signing a big contract like that is going to give you big expectations on your shoulders. Now, your first game as a member of the Lightning, preseason or not, against your former team. When you sign a big contract like Guentzel did, and then come in and replace one of the best players to ever pick up a hockey stick, the big expectations are going to come. Fans might get pissed if he doesn't have a big game against his former team. But I think Jay Guentzel is going to try and make a statement. I expect at least 1 point, a goal or an assist coming off the stick of Jay Guentzel against his former team in the Carolina Hurricanes in his first outing, because it's just what the Lightning need him to do. They're going to give him a bigger offensive role than he has had in the past. He wasn't a first liner on the Hurricanes. He was the number 3 option with 2 all-time greats for the majority of his career on that line in Pittsburgh. So now he's a first-line guy, second or third option. He was the second or third option on this Lightning team, or he will be the second or third option on this Lightning team. You could argue that Braden Point might be the 2 option behind Nikita Kucherov, but Jake Guentzel is going to be elevated to a bigger role than he has had in his entire professional career. He's doing it against a team he played as, a key player in that postseason, had some solid games in the regular season in a short sample size, but he was a key player on the Carolina Hurricanes. And going against that squad, the outcome in terms of wins and losses might not be as important in the preseason. I think to Jake Guentzel, it is going to be that important, and he's going to try and make a statement for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He may have some limited minutes as they try and save him for the regular season, but I expect Jake Guentzel to be key and hopefully a Tampa Bay Lightning victory against the Carolina Hurricanes. As I mentioned, my prediction, 3-2 Lightning. Jake Guentzel gets a goal for Tampa Bay and cements a solid start, adds height to his first season with the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Lightning. Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen here today. For your second listen, make sure to go find Locked On NHL, where the local experts keep you updated daily on the biggest storylines ahead of the upcoming season. You can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you again for listening to Locked On Lightning, your team every day. I'm Josh Sperber, and please like, subscribe, follow, depending on what platform you're on. But make sure, most importantly, to have a great Tuesday. Go Bolts, and we'll have preseason reactions and a whole lot more tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.